Along the banks of a bright, shimmering river, there once lived a devoted pair of cranes. They had built a snug little nest high in the branches of a tall tree, a spot they believed was perfect for starting their small family. Life by the river seemed peaceful, filled with soft breezes and the sound of flowing water. One fine day, the female crane laid 3 beautiful eggs. For the first time, the 2 cranes felt their hearts swell with joy and pride. Every sunrise, they took turns watching over the eggs, gently turning them and dreaming of the day their chicks would finally hatch. Their days were full of love, hope, and quiet anticipation. But destiny had other plans. One sunny morning, the cranes flew off together to a nearby bend in the river, where the water sparkled with schools of fish. After catching their fill, they hurried home, wings fluttering with excitement. Yet when they reached their nest, their joy vanished in an instant. The eggs were gone. The nest lay empty and cold. The cranes searched every branch, every blade of grass, calling out in distress, but there was no sign of the eggs or the culprit. Grief settled over them like a shadow, and they finally accepted that their little ones were lost. Determined not to give up, the cranes built another nest in a different spot along the riverbank, higher, stronger, and more hidden than before. Time passed, and once again, the female crane laid new eggs. This time, they were extra cautious. The male would leave to find food, while the female stayed behind to guard the nest. They followed this routine faithfully, believing they had learned from the past. But fate repeated itself. One morning, the male crane returned to find his mate in tears. The eggs were gone again. Trembling, the female explained what had happened. A sly snake had slithered up the tree and swallowed the eggs. She had tried to, helplessly watching as it destroyed their dream once more. Heartbroken and furious, the male crane flew off to seek advice from an old and wise friend, a thoughtful crab who lived in the same river. "My dear friend," he began, "we've lost our eggs again. I don't know how to protect our family anymore. The snake keeps coming back." The crab listened patiently, nodding with understanding. After a moment of deep thought, he said calmly, "Don't lose hope. Every problem has a way out. Let's think of a plan together." They talked for a long time as the sun began to dip below the horizon. Finally, the crab leaned closer and shared a clever plan in a quiet voice. The crane's eyes brightened for the first time in days. There was a glimmer of hope again. He hurried back to his mate to explain the idea, his heart racing with renewed determination. "Are you sure this will work?" asked the female crane, her voice trembling with both fear and hope. "We can't endure another loss." And with that, their story moved toward a turning point, one shaped by courage, friendship, and the will to protect what mattered most. The male crane, though worried, was determined not to give up. "We have to try something," he said firmly, his eyes filled with resolve. The female crane, moved by his courage, agreed. When she laid a new batch of eggs, they decided to follow their friend the crab's plan exactly as discussed, hoping it would finally bring them peace. The next morning, the male crane flew down to the riverbank and caught several small fish. With careful precision, he placed them one by one, forming a trail that led straight from the burrow of a nearby mongoose to the foot of their tree. It was a risky idea, but the crane believed it could work. The scent of the fish, he hoped, would draw the mongoose's attention toward the snake's path. Meanwhile, the crane bravely flew near the snake's den and called out loudly, pretending to boast about the new eggs in their nest. His heart raced. He feared the danger that might follow, yet he knew that without action, the snake would return sooner or later to destroy everything again. The plan unfolded just as they had imagined. The mongoose, catching the scent of fresh fish, followed the trail eagerly, piece by piece, until it reached the tree. At that very moment, the snake emerged from its hole, its tongue flickering as it slithered toward the crane's nest. The mongoose, seeing the snake, instantly viewed it as a rival and a threat. Without hesitation, it attacked. What followed was a fierce and wild battle. The snake and mongoose clashed in a desperate struggle, hissing and growling, each trying to overpower the other. The fight shook the branches of the nearby trees and sent ripples through the still air of the riverbank. At last, after a long and intense fight, the mongoose triumphed. The snake lay still, defeated. From high above, the cranes watched the scene unfold, their hearts filled with relief. The creature that had brought them so much sorrow was finally gone. They believed their troubles had ended, and for the first time in a long while, they rested peacefully that night, dreaming of a future where their chicks would hatch safely. But peace didn't last. The very next morning, when the cranes returned from fishing, a terrible sight awaited them. The mongoose, the one that had defeated the snake, was climbing down from their tree. Alarmed, the cranes rushed to their nest, only to discover that all their eggs were gone once more. The mongoose, once their savior, had become their new enemy. This painful turn taught them a harsh truth: sometimes, in trying to solve one problem too quickly, we accidentally create another, even worse than before. Friends, the story of these cranes is more than just a tale from the riverside, it's a reflection of our own lives. Often, when faced with challenges, we look for quick solutions, hoping to fix everything right away. But hasty choices can bring unexpected consequences. Just as the crane's plan solved one problem but led to another, we too must be careful about the paths we choose. In difficult times, patience and thoughtful decisions can make all the difference. Rather than rushing into easy fixes, like borrowing money or making sudden choices, take a moment to think clearly, weigh your options, and choose wisely. Every step we take shapes what comes next. If you enjoyed this story and its message, remember to share your thoughts in the comments and leave a positive note to keep us inspired. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more meaningful stories that teach life lessons through simple tales. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.